We have a little sound. Do we have a
Huh?
little soundtrack there? We have a little soundtrack.
Oh yeah, you didn't notice? Adam
I
hates
did.
it.
I like that. Who wrote that? Who wrote that?
I don't.
The
It was like
animator, right?
the animator just tacked it on there. But yeah, Adam hates it with a fiery passion.
He
It's not a
does.
fiery passion. It's
Adam,
mildly irritating.
Adam. I mean this with the the kindest way. You're proving yourself to be a little bit of a snob, is he not?
Oh,
Is
a little bit.
Ooh, a little.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I'll take it.
So, no.
Oh, so
he's
welcome to
very
coffee
self-effacing.
class.
Yeah, welcome to coffee class. All right.
Welcome.
To coffee
Here we
class
are.
number 19.
Holy sh-
Wow.
Crazy. And we are here to talk about Mad Max Fury Road, or as Avi's brother put it, Angry Max. What is it? No,
Angry
Crazy
Street.
Max
Angry Street.
means Angry Street, whatever it is.
That's funny.
And so, as you all know, this film does not have a typical script, but we still thought it would be valuable to look at it for
Absolutely.
its story. Even though,
Absolutely.
it's still, all the story stuff is still there. It's just told in a different format.
Okay, storyboards.
Yep. Storyboards. And yeah, if you look on the link in the description of this video, you can see that scriptment, I think is what they called it. Script treatment, storyboards, whatever. Anyway, John, you
Yeah.
had a mug story to kick things off as people trickle in.
A mug story. Okay, let me see if I can get it. I have so much trouble with this. Okay, there.
There you go.
Hollywood Center Studios. Hollywood Center Studios. This we're going to open today with a little quiz. This is a quiz. Hollywood Center Studios was originally Zoetrope Studios, and Adam and Avishai are absolved from this. They cannot answer. But does anybody know who owned? Because they'll jump all over it. Who owned originally Zoetrope?
I like how you knew that I wouldn't know.
Do you know?
You didn't absolve me from answering.
Okay, Alexie, who was the original owner of Zoetrope?
Oh, I don't know. You were right. I'm just saying. Oh, here we go. Is this right?
Oh, yeah, well, of course. Yeah, well, I knew you.
I
Okay.
thought
should have
I was
absolved
like,
the
this
duelist,
isn't
too.
a trick question. It's like pretty common knowledge.
Well,
No, it's
wait, you
not.
said that, but Alexie didn't know.
I didn't know. Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
We got
it's
two more
comment,
people.
Alexie.
Coppola, yeah, Paul. Yeah, look at these guys jumping all over. It's great. Yes, Friends for FFC. Oh, man.
FFC.
Okay, good. That's very good. So here's a quick anecdote about, since I didn't have an anecdote about Orson Welles, here's an interesting one. A friend of mine, whose name is Alan Singer, and Alan Singer is a great guy, and his father, they're Canadian, and his father owned real estate, and Alan was, I believe, in his late 20s, and he was thinking about going into the garment business, and the Singer family is a very wealthy Canadian family. And so his father calls him one day and says, tomorrow morning, Zoetrope Studios is going up for auction because Coppola went bankrupt, and it's going to be auctioned off. And we're going to go to the auction. And Alan says, I don't really want to go. I'm not really interested. And his dad goes, no, we're going. We're going. So they go to the auction, and Alan's dad hands him the paddle. You know, if you ever seen auctions in a movie, you got a paddle with a number on it. Hands him the paddle, and he says, if they say a number that you think makes sense, raise your paddle. And Alan goes, okay, having no interest whatsoever. And they start the bidding, and Alan goes, figuring I'll bid first, and I'll get outbid. No one bid. So his dad, and they said, do we have another, they do that thing in auctions, whatever they do. And they said, and finally the guy slams the hammer down and points to Alan and said, congratulations, you own the studio. And Alan said he nearly died. He said, no. He turned to his father and said, I'm going to move to New York City. And his father said, you're not moving to New York City. You live in LA now. You just bought a studio. So Alan's like, shit, I don't want a studio. And Alan he would kill me. We can't. Should I? Well, anyway.
It's
I'm
on
sure
the
he's
internet
watching.
forever,
It's
John. But
by the
no
way,
worries.
you can find it. You can find it. You can find this on the. Last year, he sold Hollywood Center Studios for $200 million. And I'm in Massachusetts, and this is, am I name dropping? It's not name dropping because nobody knows these people. And the friend I'm staying with ran the studio because Alan said, I don't know anything about a studio. I don't want to run a studio. And he hired my buddy Tim to run Hollywood Center Studios, which became a behemoth, and a lot of TV shows, a lot of commercials, everything, a lot of stuff was shot at Hollywood Center Studios. And it was, I believe, something like 15 or 20 acres right in the middle of Hollywood that they owned.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait, so that's whose house you're at?
Yeah.
That's why the mug is there.
And that's why.
Amazing.
Full circle.
Amazing.
So anyway, it's a little Hollywood,
Yeah.
but and Alan never made it to New York and never left LA, and he still lives in LA now. And as I said, up until about a year and a half ago, I think he owned Hollywood Center Studios. So Hollywood crazy things happen.
My condolences to him.
Yeah, it's in rough life for Alan, right? Okay.
If he wants to say hi, he can come say hi.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Without further ado, let's talk about Mad Max Fury Road.
Here.
I really love this film. I've only seen it twice, as opposed to The Third Man, which I've seen 15 times, I guess. And I found this time, watching it carefully, going through it, outlining it, doing details, that I love it in spite of itself. George Miller is a great director. This guy is a true filmmaker. He knows what he's doing. And the caveat to that is, I think he gets away with murder in this film. There are the structural or the elements of story. They are there. I think that the protagonist is a little confusing. Furiosa is the obvious protagonist, and yet when I say that in the title, it's Mad Max, and Mad Max has a wonderful arc in the film. I find, and Alexie and I were just debating this, I find that Furiosa is less active than less active than I think she might be. However, she has a great midpoint when they finally, get to her home, when they get to green space, and it's not there. That's a great midpoint. That's exactly what we talk about when we talk about midpoint. She has come all this way. She's gone through all of these challenges, all of these obstacles. She gets there, and only to find out it doesn't exist. That's a beautiful midpoint. At which point she literally falls to her knees and collapses in the sand. So that's there. The inside incident, the ultimate test is there certainly when she fights with Joe. There are a lot of elements of story, but the main thing that I want to talk about with this film, and one of the things that you should look at in terms of genre, if you like action, adventure, and I would go as far as to say this film is really a cartoon. This could be it'd be a wonderful animated film, because everything's over the top. It's a great exercise, and it's a great thing for young filmmakers, storytellers, screenwriters to look at with regards to obstacles. Some of you are writing your scripts now, or you're doing beat sheets, and you're finding how difficult it is to get through that second act and keep creating obstacles. What Miller does brilliantly is he just keeps the obstacles coming. One car is chasing the war truck, and they're going to blow up. They're going to shoot tires out. It's all. And by the way, the stakes are always high, even though it's a cartoon, because it's almost always with these obstacles. It's almost a matter of life and death. So again, this is a film, when you go back and see it again, or hopefully you noted this as you were watching it this time, that what really really works is that Miller's attention to that, attention to keeping the conflict. This is ratcheted up even more so than the prototypical Indiana Jones. I've mentioned that Indiana Jones, about every 10 pages, Indiana runs into an enormous obstacle. If you break Mad Max down, it's probably every 3 to 5 pages, and he keeps the action going. Now, what you lose in this kind of film, I think, is you lose character. When he does character beats, they're not subtle. And again, I'm going to use the reverse as by way of example. The Godfather, where it's the characters are deep and rich and well designed, well thought out. These characters are, again, a little caricaturous, a little cartoonish. When they speak, they say exactly what they're thinking about. It's almost a little bit too on the nose for my taste, but it certainly is in keeping with the tone of the film. He's not going to spend a lot of time on that because this is a come and watch film. One of the pieces that I want to wrap this up and get to everybody in the group, because I know we're going to have some great conversation about the film and how it's designed. But one of my favorite pieces in the film is War Boy. War Boy is brilliantly used as an enemy in the beginning, and then of course he transfers over and becomes a friend. If he were allowed to be more verbal, you might use that kind of character as a mentor, but he's used sparsely, or he's not sparsely, I guess. He's not a main player, I don't think, and yet he is so important to the story content and to the development of the story. And also, he as a minor character, here's a parallel you never thought you would hear. Reminds me a little bit of Little Miss Sunshine. In Little Miss Sunshine, we've talked about each of those characters has their own arc, and War Boy in this film has a fantastic arc. He's a war boy. He's set out to capture and kill. He has his moment of his ultimate test, and his transition where he starts to care for somebody. He cares about the people on the truck, and particularly the redheaded girl. And then, amazingly, almost as you would see with the protagonist, he sacrifices himself for the betterment of the other people. That's a true hero's arc. He starts with an enormous flaw. He's a would-be wannabe killer, and he goes through the entire transition in relatively few beats. So if you ever go back and look at the film, War Boy is a character worth looking at. And what else do I want to say about the film? Oh yeah, the last thing I'll say, and then we'll cut to the group. I think maybe I've talked enough about friends and enemies and how they work, and Miller does a great job with that. Who are the friends? Who are the enemies? He creates them. It's not a subtle film, so they're not subtle, but the enemies are the enemies. They're obvious, and they are used just to define and create obstacles. So again, the beats are there. I want to discuss the beats because I think that the protagonist is maybe a split protagonist, and I know that the group has more thoughts about that. Alexie, can we pull back out?
Hey.
So
we're all back.
So whose sensibilities did I offend?
You stole Avi's
I have a
split
lot of
protagonist
thoughts.
Yeah, I did. I
theory.
swiped it. Whenever
swiped
Avi,
it right
Avi
there at
says
the
something
end.
smart, I try to get it before and steal it. I do that all the time, don't I? I'm shy. Don't I do that?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way,
And if you
Avishai's
say it
got
first,
some,
it's yours.
some news.
Oh, are we
Well,
doing the news now?
you're there, and I thought we should slip it in. What's the news? What's your news?
Sure. Okay,
Yeah.
then we get back to Mad Max. My screenplay that had advanced to the quarterfinals in the Nickel is now a semifinalist. So, John, I have to show you. A friend of mine saw the news. A good friend of mine. He asked me for my address, and I gave it to him. And the very next day, it showed up.
Wait, say that. I missed part of that. I'm sorry. Say that. Oh.
Fancy.
Yep.
Somebody.
So,
wow.
I've got friends celebrating with me, and that's wonderful.
That's great.
So,
Well, we're.
Was that,
and
was
by
that
the way-
gift worth all of the effort of writing
Yeah,
that?
Avishai. Yes, Avishai.
was-
He's
it
a
was-
star.
It's
Nice.
a
That's
lot of
really
fun. And I
cool.
gotta say, just an observation that I have, I recognized a lot of names that made it to the semis, and I think it's kind of funny that a process that's designed to kind of winnow away people is something that's so shareable. Anyway, it's just a thought that passed through my head. We should get back to Fury Road.
Yes,
right?
let's do that. But again, we're really happy for you and congratulations, and you deserve it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I
Oh,
sent you the script. I
well.
hope that you don't hate it.
We have even more coming in. Hang on.
Does it?
Oh, Lord.
Congrats, Avi. You sent me the script. I'm going to read it. I hope it doesn't have. Adam, watch this. This is going to be pretty good. I hope it doesn't have a split protagonist.
Oh,
It was
man.
probably sounded better in your head, Joe.
Oh,
We'll talk about it
Timing's
once you've read
everything.
it. We'll talk about it once you've read it.
What do we got? What do we got with Mad Max?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts about this movie, so I'm just going to kind of drop it all here. So this is
Can you start? Can you tell us a little bit about the protagonist? Because I'm.
well, yeah. I mean, so this is the movie that I've probably seen the most number of times in my life. Like I've lost count. This is The Third Man. I saw it three times in theaters. So I'm all over this movie.
It says more than you know, but keep going.
Yeah, it says I have taste. So anyway, so thoughts about the protagonist. So this is the fourth Mad Max movie. The other three starred Mel Gibson. They're all George Miller, and the two best Mad Max movies in the series. I guess technically three of them, but mostly two of them kind of follow this sort of samurai structure of Max is a character who wanders into somebody else's story, helps them, and then wanders out. So in The Road Warrior, you have these characters who are besieged by God, I'm forgetting his name. Somebody in the comments is gonna have the name. But Max comes in, has something like 24 lines in the entire film, helps them out and leaves. And that's basically what he does here. So kind of thinking about protagonist and arc and stuff, I've been kind of giving this a lot of thought lately. And the main thesis of stories like this, or just in general where a character has an arc, is if you change your beliefs, tactics, opinions, etc., then you can change your circumstances, right? And the sort of following that is the idea of a character can change. And I think a story like this, the idea is that characters can change each other. So this is a story, I think, that functionally speaking, just in terms of goal, Furiosa is the protagonist. She is the sort of general of this tyrant who abuses and tortures women and sort of denies them of agency. She hates herself for being complicit in that, and she wants to save them. So the inciting incident is when she breaks them out.
Right.
The big sort of all is lost moment. And by the way, just side note, we'll get back to it. But I actually thought it was kind of funny that you said that the news about the green place is the midpoint, because if you stop the movie exactly halfway into it, that's when Angharad falls off the truck and they lose her.
I was one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
we'll-
good.
we'll-
Yeah.
We'll get back to that. But,
yeah.
I just wanted to flag that for later. But
I thought
at the ultimately,
They both thought they were the.
yeah, Paul says they both thought they were the protagonists.
it's true. At least four characters in this
That's
movie
funny.
think that they're
That's
the
funny.
protagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this big sort of ultimate tests of, do we go forward or do we go back and reclaim the thing we've been running from, et cetera, et cetera. She gets, stabbed in the side, is, ultimate test. She manages to kill her antagonist and she wins. So she has a bit of an arc in that she thought that she could run away from her problems and reach this utopia. And then it turns out that actually, in order to solve your problems, you have to solve the problems and not just, escape them. Max has, I think, a more profound arc. And he, they both help each other physically. He's very active. I think that she's active too, but they're both complementing each other. Like, they both kind of have a reason to exist in each other's story. So he, saves her a few times. She saves him a few times. But his arc, he starts off as somebody who doesn't want to get involved in other people's problems because he's let people die before and it weighs on him. And so when he first runs into her, they only help each other out because it's in his personal interest, but he doesn't even want to get close. He won't even say his name. And by the end, he is giving her his blood, which has been already stolen from him. And he's doing that actively, and he says his name, and he has come to care about somebody else despite not wanting to do that. Yeah. And so, like, it sort of fits that sort of samurai mold of character wanders into somebody else's story, helps out that character, and then they're both changed by it. I think we'll have a lot of discussion about this. We'll have to have discussion about theme, because I think there's a lot to say about theme.
The theme which you're touching on, and the theme, and again, I just can't, George Miller, he is a fantastic filmmaker. He knows what he's doing. He can get away with doing things that are unconventional. It's what you've heard me say. You got to know the rules to break the rules. But I mean, he and with the earlier Mad Maxes, going back to the very first one, I mean, he also you could argue that this is his own genre. This is something he owns. This, he created it. So, but Adam, I think you have a take on.
Well,
and then we also sorry, real quick, not to cut you off. I was just going to say we also have some participants sharing what they thought of the protagonist too.
Oh, great.
So
okay, good.
Adam, do you want to run through your theory real quick?
Well, on all the big points, I completely agree with Avi. I think that the ultimate test, end of Act 2, is when they get to the green place, because that's when the objective is, resolved. In Act 3, it's about, well, now what do we do? But I think, just an observation, like, this is a samurai movie, because in a way, like, this was all the Mad Max films were really inspired by Kurosawa, and the aesthetic, the sort of the rugged, brutality of, the samurai story is kind of what Max is kind of doing in all the films. In Yojimbo, he wanders into the town and he gets caught up in the lives of the people, and then he saves them, and then he leaves.
Adam, would you say in the samurai prototype, would you say that he is, when he wanders into town, that's his, to go back to what we talk about a lot, the elements of story, that's when he's left his normal world. Now he's in a new world when he comes into the, right? Yeah. Is that, I mean, I think that's somewhat the structure to samurai films.
The cliche is exactly what Max's arc was. Is I'm a loner and I don't want to get involved, and then inevitably the samurai does care about the townspeople, and like, well, I guess I'm going to help you from the raiders out in the village. It's the same story, The core, of course. Mad Max is awesome. Not dissing it, but
Here, let's see.
I agree with Avi. I've only seen it 3 times, so I haven't seen the black and white versions. So you definitely have more insight.
On this note, Paul says, "Isn't this really an updated Western?"
Oh, great! Yeah,
Western
film that this reminds me of.
Hey, that's right. The Western is a samurai story, because all those spaghetti westerns were rip-offs of the Kurosawa movies.
Leone, all those guys are stealing from Kurosawa. Kurosawa. By the way, we've got to see a Kurosawan film.
Oh yeah.
He's amazing.
By the way, just wanted to interject super quick. There's a version of this story in which Max doesn't exist, and you could do just the Furiosa story and then give her, but because Max is in this story, like, you could do the version of this where it is just Furiosa and doing all this, and you just, everything that Max does, you give to her. If you're adding a character like Max to the story, you justify his existence, and his existence is justified with his arc. It's justified with the things that he does in the story that none of the other characters either can do or do. So I will say there's no version of this story in which you remove Furiosa.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's right, and that probably it sums up who the protagonist
And the
is.
choice to add Max is an excellent one because he creates so much conflict. So much of the early conflict is I don't want to trust you with the gun. I want to look where your hands are at any moment. Like there's so much tension in those scenes of like them butting heads. Like the version, that hypothetical version would not be as interesting.
And Adam, go ahead on that. What?
I was going to say my issue though with considering Max the protagonist is that he doesn't, unless I'm missing something, I didn't see him driving towards a specific objective. Like he was trying to survive, really, and then he eventually decided to kind of, okay, fine, the girls can come along too. Okay, fine, maybe I care about where they're going. Yeah. His whole personal struggle was with the little girl. Let's see. Yeah, this is what Monica said. Monica says, I would say that Max was not the protagonist because his issue was the little girl. In the end, he's no longer part of the story. I think that's kind of interesting to me because like his big conflict is the flashbacks and stuff.
To the people he couldn't save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, and it's worth noting, the whole enter a new world thing. He enters a new world that is home to these characters. You have Furiosa is trying to drive to a new world. She's trying to find her new world. Ultimately, this new world never becomes his world, right? He comes in, he helps out, and at the very end, and I think it's really important, at the very end, once Furiosa has succeeded and has liberated the water and is now in charge of this world, Max leaves. He doesn't stay, and
that's the samurai moment.
That is the samurai moment.
And it's beautiful.
Her story is done. He is off now to keep surviving, keep wandering, and then presumably end up helping somebody else.
Do you think, if you're designing this story, is there a moment when you say, okay, we know it's the prototype, we know it's a samurai film, but is there a moment when you think I'm going to put them together or not? Is it?
I'm sure that somebody said it.
I mean, there had to have been a story meeting. There had to have been a story. Yeah, I mean, I think it's inconsistent with the theme and the tone of the film, but
I don't think that was ever a possibility in George Miller's mind.
Well, not in George Miller's mind, no, because George Miller's a
producer.
purist. He's making George Miller's a purist. He's making that film, and that's the only ending. But I would bet that the studio said, please, let them. And Miller went, no, we're not going to do it. And they said, fine. He owns it. He owns it.
Well, counterpoint. Even if Miller wasn't in charge, this is the fourth Mad Max film, and that's how they end.
Yeah,
he
There's
leaves.
a precedent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, they want a sequel. They don't want him to stick around.
I'm curious to know if any of the people who just saw it for the first time, if they were surprised by that ending.
Yeah, it feels natural to me. At least.
It feels. That's absolutely.
It was my first time seeing it, and I just kind of was like, fair.
What does that mean? What is that?
I was just like, oh, true.
True.
Yeah.
Word. Alexie, did you like the movie?
I did. I like I like stuff with a lot of world building. It was too much Max for me, but I feel like that's what
the world building is beautiful.
I'm sure that's the note you expect from me, is that it was too much Max and not enough Furiosa, but that's how it is.
Yeah, but they're doing another version of this. It's a Winter Bone 2, and it's got Furiosa.
It's in a tundra. It's in a tundra, not a desert.
Yeah, it's winter
Alexie,
tundra.
They're making a prequel with just Furiosa, and when she's 19 or something.
Yeah, because she's the breakout.
She's from Kentucky.
Wait, is that real?
Isn't she?
You're lying.
That's real.
To me.
No, I'm not. I'm serious. It was a thing because they didn't cast Charlize Theron because they didn't want to use expensive de-aging technology, and she was kind of upset about that.
Ooh.
So they cast a younger version.
There are stories from this set.
I mean, that's fair though. She could play like the mom,
And Adam, isn't it true? Isn't she from Kentucky originally?
I have no idea.
No, she is 100% from like South Africa, isn't she?
Yeah, no,
Charlie-
I'm
yeah.
kidding. I'm just doing that to try to poke Alexie a little bit.
And
by the
also,
way, the
Winter's
theme-
Bone was in
Oh Jesus, what did I do?
Missouri, not Kentucky. I will have you know.
Okay,
Anyway.
I think every film is from Kentucky because of you. It's my.
It should
my-
be.
But Alexie, so I'm surprised that was your feeling, because I felt like it was a great movie.
It was
Oh,
a
it's a
great
great
movie.
movie.
I was
For what
just
it is,
saying,
yeah.
if I was like gonna have to give my big thoughts about it, I think it was a great movie, and I really enjoyed it. And
Okay.
I also don't like needles, so there's a little bit too much of that for me. But like, I have to look away when they're doing that, and I was like, Carl, tell me when they're not doing that anymore, and they were just always doing it. So that was a little unfortunate. But
Can we talk about the real tragedy of the film, though?
Yeah.
Max's car.
oh,
Oh.
Max's cool, iconic, amazing ride does not really get driven. It gets
No.
trashed in the beginning, right?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
getting
Okay,
something?
but in
Heartbreaking.
fairness, it was already destroyed in the previous films. So
Right. So how did he have it back?
But
Here's
wait,
a-
yeah, no,
oh.
that's important. Yes. Oh, good.
so
Hi,
Lane says, I think this is a cool thought. I think it's Furiosa's story from Mac's point of view, like C-3PO and R2-D2 and A New Hope.
Ooh, Lane.
point of view character.
We got to do Star Wars.
Wow, we got to do Star Wars.
Not
yeah,
Lord of
that'll
the
be our
Rings?
next blockbuster.
By the way,
that's a
sort of
great note, Lane. That's a great note.
A sort of a Star Wars connection. The original Star Wars film was rescued in the edit by
Yes.
George Lucas's
George Lucas.
first wife.
No. His wife, who was
his
the
wife.
editor.
And I'm blanking on her name right now, but Mad Max
Marsha?
Fury. Yes, thank you,
Is
Marsha.
that right?
Marsha, now formerly Lucas, edited the first Star Wars and really saved the story in the cut. Mad Max Fury Road is edited by George Miller's wife, Margaret Sixel. And she does some things with the editing. I'm told that they had to find a lot of it in the edit, because when you shoot that much footage from every conceivable angle and have to create a rhythm out of it. But George Miller asked her to edit it, and
Fury Bone.
Fury Bone. George Miller asked her to edit it, and she said,
Mad Bone.
That's great.
She said, I've never edited an action film before, and he said, that's why I want you to edit it.
Oh, interesting. Claymation. That would be funny. That would be fun. That's funny.
I would write it.
Can we talk
Let
about
me
the theme for a
know.
second? Can we talk about the theme?
Yes.
'Cause, again, what I think Miller is so good at, he's got all the tools. He's got all the craft. He makes exactly the movie he wants to make. He breaks he knows when he's breaking rules.
Right.
But I also think that thematically, well, I have an opinion of what the theme is. I'm curious to know, Adam, what's your take?
Avishai, what do you think?
Oh. Wow.
Passing the buck.
Okay, all right. So
I do have an opinion, but I think yours is going to be better.
oh my
Being
God.
that
So
you've
then don't you
memorized-
want to go
Well,
first?
he's
Pressure,
memorized
pressure.
the film. He's memorized.
Yeah, I mean, I will say every time I watch it, I see a new thing. But so I feel personally, when it comes to theme, there's theme and there's texture. Where, you know, like you could say it's an environmental movie. That's in the texture. That's built into the aesthetic of it. You could say it's about all, you know, cults. You can say it's about all sorts of things. I think that the theme comes from Max's arc. I think that in general themes come from character arcs.
Yes.
Max has the arc of going from not caring about others, like trying not
That's
to care
right.
about others, to realizing the best way to survive is to care about others, to realizing screw survival, care about others. His arc is what the story is about. And because there's also such a sort of a strong, like feminist, like liberation streak going on, I think it was really smart of Miller to tie that to a character arc also, because that could have just been texture. That could have just been, you know, these women are breaking out of out of their prison, out of their harem, and, you know, coming into their own and finding their own agency. But the reason why I think it matters as a theme is because of Nux. You have this character who starts off basically worshiping toxic masculinity and worshiping this, you know, this man who is this tyrant, who is this dictator who imprisons women. And he becomes somebody who is an ally to these women against this sort of patriarchy. And I think because of that, it comes on its own as a theme in the story, and not just as sort of, I guess, kind of external commentary. Like the film has something to say about it because a character comes to learn it.
Well, yeah, and I think that there's a moment at late second act when they reach out and they grab one another's hand when they they hold on. And for me, because they're both somewhat isolated, they're loners, you could say, and then thematically, it's about you need other people.
Yeah,
you can't make. I mean, to be a little cliche about it, perhaps, is that to make this journey.
Yeah.
You need other people, and Miller, I think he gives us that in a really beautiful way in this kind of over the top action film, which I really admire that he, again, that his craft is so strong that he can do that. And I think the first time maybe you see the film that's so subliminal you don't notice, but it's there and it's just beautiful.
I think
characters are not. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that regarding theme and I have a theory of theme and how it connects to flaw and stuff. And Avi, I think you put it really well when you were saying that tying theme to the character's arc is so important. And the way I think about theme is that it's a question at the heart of the movie, and the character at the very beginning of the movie doesn't know their answer, and then by the end they finally have an answer. And I think the question here is about what what are other people to you in this survival survival. And then every character has their own answer. And I think that if we treat Max as a protagonist and Furiosa as sort of his mentor, and so he eventually takes her answer, which is you need people to survive and to rely on people. And then everybody else has their own answer. The antagonist has the toxic answer, which is just use people. You need them so you can use them. And then I guess War Boy, it's all about, I guess, he's always so obsessed with getting into
Valhalla.
Valhalla. So it's something about that. Somehow that ties in. But anyway, that's how I think about things.
That's a wonderful way to get Alexie.
Yeah.
I've come to see things Alexie's way on this particular issue recently. My view, I think I just disagree on because maybe when I was watching it, I was so convinced Furiosa was the protagonist. I saw a different dramatic question. The dramatic question I saw was, what do you do in a broken world? Do you run away from it? Do you try to fix it? Do you try to exploit it? That would have been the antagonist's abuse of it, exploit what little resources there are for your power. Do you share it? What do you do? And I think Furiosa's answer is, try and fix it rather than run away. That for me was her thematic.
I like that better.
Arc.
I like that take better than mine.
I like them both. I think I lean Alexie's direction on this just because it is so the conflict is so much more about saving this batch of people versus saving the land that they're on, because the land seems pretty beyond saving, and they're not really fighting over the patch of land.
So I wouldn't say it was so much saving it, but what do you do with whatever little is left, I guess was my interpretation.
Well, and I think the fact that you can interpret it and it works, this whole theory works with both of them as protagonists, just shows how strong both characters are.
I also think, it's something about theme also, that theme is this sort of malleable thing where if you can take it away from what you're watching and it's supported by the text. One of the things I love about this movie so much is that all of the points it really makes strongly, it does visually. There's this great visual that catches me every time where when Nux is an enemy, there's this wide shot in profile of the truck driving across the horizon and Nux is kind of running after it.
Yes.
And towards the end, they have it in reverse where he is running in front of it. And just
oops, sorry. Is it this?
Are you talking about the opening shot?
So JAW says, have we talked about the opening shot and the echo shot in the opening of the third act? Oh. And the start, he's running away, and
that's a different shot. That's also great, because the opening shot of Max, we're behind him, he's next to his car, he's standing on this ridge when all he cares about is his own survival. And that shot happens again in the third act when the women have decided we're going to take our motorcycles out into the salt flats. And he's standing there. It's a repeated shot. And that's the shot where he decides, actually, we're not going to run. We're going to go back, and I'm going to put my interests behind what you want and help what you want. Like, he could have just let them go.
Well, and there's a great moment when he says he's not going to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he could just let them go, and he decides, no, hey, I have an idea. And by the way, there is a version of this where Furiosa comes up with the idea of let's go back, but they sort of justify Max's existence in the entire movie by having him be the guy who says, I think you should go back this way. And that's sort of the function that he serves narratively for Furiosa's story.
Is he the mentor?
I think he kind of is.
Yeah.
They're the mentors to each other, you know. It's like it depends on who you think is the main.
I was about to say that, Alexie, but I was muted.
What if I muted you?
No, I muted myself.
Let me before we leave theme, there's something I want to say, and it's something we'll cover in writing the feature, and so it's from not from a Mad Max point of view, but from a writer's point of view, and I see this a lot with students. Is
that was karma.
And it goes back, I think, to what Alexie was saying, that, you know, through the character you find your theme. What I find in working with young writers at NYU or wherever, they don't know the theme when they start, and this is what's really makes my job really interesting. I'll have however many students, let's say 14 students. They're all pitching a movie idea that they came up with. Rarely do they say why that idea inspired them, but something about this idea. And one of the wonderful things about my job is I get a disparate kind of, I get movies all over the map. I get rom-coms, I get horror movies, I get thrillers, I get, everything. And as you watch these students, these young writers develop their stories, you see them find out why they gravitated to that story, but they don't know initially. And I know that's true with me. I know there's stories that I had to write, that I felt compelled to write, that I was really interested in. I didn't know why. And at the risk of sounding a little mystical about this, what happens at some point in the writing process, what happens at some point during the developing of a story, you go, oh my God, this is why I care about the story. This is why I was pulled into this story. Because we're all seeing, as writers, we're all seeing a lot of stories every day, and we're thinking, oh, that's a cool story, I could write that. Oh, that's a cool story, I could do that. But at some point you go, this is the one. This is the one I'm going to get married to. This is the one I'm going to sink my teeth into. This is what I'm going to work at. And the theme, you find the theme as you're writing. So the last thing I'll say about this, I think that's a great approach. I've seen that approach happen a lot, and with tremendous success. The approach to be careful of is, I've got a theme, and by God, you're going to believe it. And they say, I'm going to tell the theme, not the story. That's preaching. So that's a very, very, and I've seen this with some frequency. Here's what I want to say, not here's what the story is. So I would strongly recommend, if you smell a story and you think this is a story that I feel compelled to dig into, to write, to spend the next 6-8 months, whatever, how long it's going to take you to write, go after that story. At some point in the process, it'll tell you why you came to it. But don't go in saying, I'm going to tell the world what they should know, and I'm going to write a story so that they'll be better, so that I can help them correct themselves.
See, I think that something that helps with that is thinking about it as a question that has many valid answers. Mm-hmm. So, like, for example, you could say that if you looked at the theme of Mad Max as like, you must have other people, to help you in your life, then it becomes a much more preachy thing. But there's all these characters who have different opinions that have worked for them for quite a long time. Right. And in that sense, I think, as long as it's a
And-
question, you can. I think it's interesting to start with it, but you have to actually be willing to give each character a reasonable, believable, different answer.
And
That's a great
and then the
point.
movie endorses an answer at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, but by that point, it's like, okay, I see
Yeah.
why that makes sense for this character.
Fair.
I just have to bring up the example that bubbled up to my head just now is The Matrix. You know, there's different philosophical answers to the question of is reality, is understanding what reality is the right decision, what you want, knowing how bad it is. If you could choose the fantasy over the reality, if you could choose the blue pill or the red pill, would you?
Mhm.
And all the characters have different answers for that. Morpheus is convinced the red pill, we need to have truth, let's like save the world, let's burn everything down. And Cypher, who is one of the enemies in the film, is the guy who's like, I made a mistake taking the red pill, I wish I took the blue pill. And he's the one who betrays them all. And at the end, Agent Smith, the antagonist, gives a great argument for humanity staying in the Matrix and staying in the blue pill, which is like human beings are like parasites. We're the cure, like let us do our thing. You be plugged in. You existing outside of our control is a mistake. I don't know. There's like so many great answers to the philosophical question of would you take the red pill or the blue pill if you knew what it meant.
And also that movie has this big question of like if given the chance to be important, do you take it or not? And you have characters who believe that they're inherently important. You have characters who very much don't want to be important. There are characters who believe I am not important, but I can be through my actions. And by the way, John, thinking about Conceiving Theme, at least in my own experience, and maybe, I assume I'm not alone on this. I'll think that I'm writing about one thing and then realize I'm actually writing about something else. Where I'll have a theme in mind, but it'll evolve, and then you realize, oh, that's actually not what I've been telling.
Yes, absolutely. The theme is this is again a little cliched, but the theme is kind of your inner need. I mean, it's somewhere down in you. Also, I think, and maybe it's true for the three of you. A lot of writers and storytellers, filmmakers, have one theme, and they keep telling it. Now, if they're really, really talented, they find nuance and different ways to tell it. But there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll see that there are certain filmmakers who have they have one moral core thing that they keep coming back to, and thematically that's what they make their movies about. And,
so what is George Miller's theme between the Mad Max films and Happy Feet and Babe, Pig in the City?
Babe, Pig in the City breaks all the rules, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I would love to meet George Miller. I think he's got to be a fascinating guy, and the whole nihilism, the whole dystopian world that he came up with. You guys are too young, but I saw Mad Max, the first one, with what's his name? What is his name? Oh, Mel Gibson. I saw that when it opened, and just was like, because you had to go see that film, however many years ago that was, and was blown away because you hadn't seen anything like it. So this is in his George Miller, this is in his wheelhouse. This is the story that resonates for him. And he's been telling versions of it for a long time.
Has he done post-apocalyptic movies outside of this franchise?
I don't think so. I mean, Babe the Pig,
He's very versatile.
He is very versatile.
Oh man,
There's a great video interview. I shared it in the Discord. It's like just an hour long. It was recorded like last week or something, where he was talking about the process of making this and how he came up with it. And he sounds like a really interesting guy.
He's got to be fascinating.
A lot of interesting stuff to say.
Happy Feet has a penguin rebellion led by the protagonist, right?
He likes revolution. All right.
There we go.
The power of dance. Power of dance.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So here's a broader question about Mad Max that I think is interesting. Joshua says, What are your opinions on the dialogue? I thought some of the exposition and important interactions weren't very elegant.
Oh, they're so on the nose. I mean,
I'd agree.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, some of the dialogue is cringeworthy. I mean, it's melodramatic, it's cliched, you know, and you go, okay. I mean, there's not much subtlety to this dialogue,
But it works.
It works. I actually kind of like
it works.
the dialogue.
It works. I mean, I would, but Adam, wouldn't you love a little more subtlety, nuance to the dialogue? I mean, I don't.
You actually, I would make an argument against it.
Yeah.
When I watched this in theaters, it was like my nervous system was pummeled to, I was being punched in the face 8 times. I was so like my nerves were blown out. I don't think I would have been able to pick up any subtlety after those intense chase sequences. Like getting it telegraphed to you, like, this is how I feel, like, helped me.
Yeah. By the way, that's what they say. This is how I feel. And I got that off my chest. Let's move on. Let's get back in the car and take off. Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the dialogue in this movie. And here's why. So you have this really elegant, straightforward story that requires a lot of complex visuals, and you know that your characters are going to be, they're going to have to say what they need to say and get it over with. And they know that, and because of that, they go out of their way to not just have on-the-nose dialogue, but to go in the opposite extreme, where everything they say is so elevated to absurdity, where they have words, they invent words and phrases and misuse words and phrases to create this kind of comic book. Like, there's like a character who says to Nux that, like, maybe it's good that you didn't die. And what she says is, maybe it was your manifest destiny not to die. They have
that.
Like,
that is a great.
I love that, though.
There's Aqua Cola. There's I want to be Mick Feasting with the heroes. They have all these crazy terms, and it's like, okay, if they're going, media, and it's super memorable. Who killed the world? Witness me. I am the man who grabs the sun, flying to Valhalla. It's fantastic. But they.
Oh my God, Avishai can quote the entire film. Do we have time?
Here's a question, John.
Yeah.
At this point, having seen it only twice, can't you? They're very memorable.
Yeah.
They really stick in your head, and
there's not many. So.
I mean, some of them are a little bit Avishai. Some of them are a little laughable. No.
Wait, you're supposed to laugh. Yeah, you have this insane world. I would be kind of bummed out if they talked in a kind of basic. It's like, I think we need to get from here to there. Like, no, go crazy. You look crazy. You, like, she has like a robot arm. It's like, you know what? Just go insane with what you're saying and own it. And then maybe while you're doing that, you can sneak in some cogent lines that you find yourself repeating. I mean,
this comes down to camp, right?
Yeah.
Can you like camp? That's what it is.
Like, it fits the aesthetic, and I think anything else would have been inappropriate. So, like, there's this one line every time I watch it, I laugh so hard at this line where they see this, war party coming in from the side, and Charlize Theron says, "Bullet farmer. He's coming from the bullet farm," and I lose it. And this is the only kind of movie where you can get a line like that. Imagine if in the
when
third
this
man,
whole virus thing is passed and everything, I want to watch this film with you.
yes,
Wouldn't that be fun? Because do
I'll
you
just
say
like
all
this.
the lines?
He's just going to be mouthing it the whole time.
Are you like 4 seconds ahead of all the dialogue? Are you repeating as it?
At this point, I'm 4 seconds ahead of the music cues. But imagine if in The Third Man, Orson Welles says, "We need to wipe out this whole stinking mess," and just starts throwing out phrases like I don't know,
Back to Valhalla.
like damn Buster drugs, like just throwing out phrases like that. It doesn't fit.
No,
it
doesn't.
The dialogue from The Third Man would not fit in this. So
no. I mean, George Miller owns the tone, the tempo. He owns the movie. He created it. Nobody else. It's in his hands. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
And also beyond that,
the look is beautiful.
I actually think there's a lesson to pull from it beyond the camp element, which is there's a lot of information that's packed very densely in the dialogue. They don't have nobody spews exposition, but you get it all. So like when Furiosa says to Max, essentially, like, there's nothing here for us. We're going to ride off of these motorcycles. You can join me if you'd like. There is a version of this movie where Max says, I used to be like you. I used to believe in ideals and saving the world, and I've lost all that. But because of you, you have brought me back to where I was with my daughter. My daughter, like, I can imagine a version of the movie like that. It would be terrible.
I've closed my eyes just now. Tom, I saw it. Tom, yeah.
Oh God.
Don't give John an aneurysm, God.
But instead, you just have.
I dropped my laptop.
You just have the most basic. I am the conductor of the choir of death, and you get it. You immediately get it. So,
Oh my God.
This
We
is
have
here.
to have
Yeah.
Avishai do the whole movie. Wait, what's this? Rachel.
They also tell a lot of the story without dialogue. I love how the minor characters have a weird depth to them, which ties into what you were just saying, Avi. Without saying a word, the Doof Warrior is a classic character.
Yeah.
the guitarist.
Could
Is
you
that
play
it is-
Rachel?
The fire
Rachel,
guitar.
could we watch this film muted?
I think so. I think that it
I
was.
think you could watch this film muted.
I think that it was basically like a silent film, and then every once in a while they have dialogue that.
Which Avishai will quote.
Which
Yeah. Yeah, Avi will say it, so we don't need the sound on.
Yeah, do the mute version where I'm just there saying the lines out loud.
When the virus is over, I want to see the film with you, and I'm going to we'll mute it, and you'll just do all the characters.
Yeah,
So it'll
Avi
just
will
be
do-
like 10 minutes of silence, 2 lines,
Yeah.
another 5 minutes of
Yeah,
silence.
5 minutes of silence, one line, 15 minutes of silence. 2
But
lines.
Alexie's right in that it's a silent. It's Buster Keaton's The General, right?
Oh, the general, Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's Buster
man.
Keaton. This is Buster Keaton, even down to the stunts.
I mean, well, I mean, Buster Keaton also was subtle and graceful and elegant. And
Oh.
Was
come
he
on,
subtle when he
Avishai.
broke his neck on camera?
So there was
Silence. Yeah.
there's the Chrome edition
Sorry.
of the film, which wasn't that what George Miller wanted, what he preferred, where it's black and white or black and chrome, and and so yeah, people were talking about that in our Discord quite a bit. So it's
But
what
there's-
do
I
you
haven't
think
seen it.
about? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, if the whole purpose of this movie is to be as pure cinema as possible, where it's just look at this and see what you need to see and you get it immediately and you're thrilled. If you can do that without color, you're even a step ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, Alexie, you let off with the fact that the script was written in an unconventional way. I think it says a lot that this was the kind of movie that the best way to write it was to work out visually through storyboards what it was going to look like before they could even begin writing it. And
Yeah.
I'd be curious. Like, you can't do that with the third man.
No, I posted in the email that I sent out. I shared this link where someone was going over the unconventional script for Fury Road, and at one point he played a scene and then tried to write what it would look like if it was a regular script, and you just can't really do it. It doesn't work.
No.
You can't. It had to be done this way. It was one of the
Yeah.
stories that just needed to have the visuals because that's what was important.
Can we also
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
why the
how
studio, when the studio signs off on a movie like this, they're signing off on George Miller's vision. And there are only a few filmmakers they'll do that with, where they say, you are an artist and you understand this medium better than we do, and we have to give the reins over to you because we really don't understand what it is. And that's you see that with James Cameron, Cameron, of course, Spielberg, but there are only a few filmmakers where the studio is really hands off because they can't comprehend what the vision is that the filmmaker has. And Miller is one of those filmmakers.
If you have a chance, there's a great New York Times, I think it was a New York Times, oral history of the making of this film. And there was a moment where it seemed like the studio was going to destroy it during production. And then, like, right in the nick of time, there was a shakeup at the top, and suddenly the person who was going to come in and destroy it all was out. I highly recommend reading that oral history. One more note about dialogue. I'm sorry, I have to. I have a note about dialogue, and then we can move on. Do you know what the benefit is of crazy, short, over-the-top lines that don't outsay their welcome but are completely insane? They can repeat, and they can mean different things later in the story.
Mm.
And you can use that as a marker of how far a character has come. Like you have Nux at the beginning yelling, "Witness me." That means something different than at the end when he's about to sacrifice his life and he says the same thing.
Mm.
Good point. I mean, Avi, you've got me kind of wanting to go back and see the film again, but with you.
At least 5 more times, and then we can talk.
Is there any questions? What's going
Yeah,
on?
we've had a lot of conversation happening in the
let's hear it.
chat. Let's see. Anybody have any? Here, Ken asks, what did you guys think about the superb editing and color filters?
Oh,
I
magnificent.
I don't normally notice, like, editing is not normally on my list of things that I notice first. I think. I mean, I'm sure I'd notice it if it was bad, but I thought it was interesting how some of the scenes were sped up in the beginning. That was my note. That's it. That's all I've got about editing.
So they achieved that through low frame rates, like
Ah.
unusually dipping below 24 frames. And they shot like a lot of the movie that way. And it feels kind of weird and like sped up for that reason. It's kind of a cool accelerated effect because you have to think, like, how do you make, they're really driving these cars out in the Nambian desert. They did that all for real. They did some stuff not there, but you have to think, how do you make slowed down car chases that are insurance friendly for actors to do stunts on top of?
Yes.
You do it slower, but you still have got to do those moves. It's dangerous, and I think part of those choices are what makes the editing have more attention to itself, because it looks and feels and the cuts connect differently than films that, like, say, The Hobbit or something that's doing 60 frames per second.
But there was those fades too, wasn't there? Like in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah.
It has a real,
it's consummate. It's beautiful. Yeah.
it has a real mastery of rhythm. So it won the Academy Award for Best Editing, and there's actually Schrader Thomas in the comments actually points out something that's great, which is part of how you can make this so chaotic and still you can absolutely follow it is the eye trace. Basically, everything is shot to be at the center of the frame, so that when you're cutting rapidly from shot to shot to shot to shot to shot with these, just insane rhythm of all this crazy things going on, your eye isn't bouncing around trying to figure out where you should be looking. You're always looking at the right thing. You're always looking at what they want you to look at. And by the way, something that I noticed on this rewatch that I've seen before, but I really saw it now, how much, and I have to assume it goes under the radar in general, but how much they put stock in character reactions. There's a lot of cutting to characters looking at things, to characters responding to things. You get their feelings throughout all of these insane moments, and even if it doesn't register, you're picking up on it because we're cutting from an explosion to Furios's eyes.
Well, that's part of what makes it feel so violent. There was a great video essay I watched on John Woo, and part of what makes his films so kinetic and violent is that he shows the impact and the reaction to the punch or kick or explosion more. He puts so much more emphasis on that than maybe if, like, you see some bunch of things happen quickly, like going to her eyes, going to, like how close the weapon is to his skin, and like holding on that makes it feel more kinetic and
So is
violent.
And also you feel because you're seeing the reaction. I mean, this Hitchcock was great at this. When you then it's evocative because you feel what the character saw.
So is that an editing choice, or is that something that the writer can do?
That's not something, generally speaking, that's not something the writer can do, because that's when you start getting into directing on the page. And we talked about, you don't want to do that. That's normally the director, cinematographer, and then in the cut.
There's something that I would add to that, which is, so I'm trying to remember. Okay, so I think it was writer Zach Stentz on Twitter had a really good point, which is you can do it in the writing by framing the things that are happening through a character's perspective. So he always does what he calls a Spielberg pass, which is you go back, you say the dinosaur roars, and you change that to he stares in awe at the roaring dinosaur. You refocus on the character reactions, and even if it's a minor thing like that, you connect with it more because we don't care as much about the things that happen as we care about the character reactions to those things. And I think you can do that on the page. You don't do cut to Max's eyes, like, but you could say the war rig explodes, Max's jaw drops,
Yeah.
and it's evocative. And by the way, just real quick, Adam, in the interview with Miller, he had a bit of advice for directing that I assume it kind of probably works in writing also to a degree, which is always do it on set a little bit faster than you think it should be going, because when you're on set, you're in it. The adrenaline is going on. You feel like it's everything that's happening is happening really intensely. But when you're watching it at home, you're in repose. You're lying back and you're watching it happen, and you're not really in it. So you want it to go a little bit faster. And I think the way that translates to writing is look at your script. You feel like it's really intense because you've just been writing it. So whoever's reading it is going to either read it in a quick go, or they're going to slog through it, and kind of get out of your own head for a second and see, is this script actually going to read fast to the person who's reading it? Is it going to read slow to the person who's reading it? Forget how it felt writing it.
That's really important note. It's also something that Alexie and I, and Adam, when we've been working on writing the feature. And I hope this is consistent with what you're saying, that having a little objectivity, stepping back from the material, giving it a little room to breathe, and then trying to approach it as if it's somebody else's script, and then and saying, okay, rather than being so in love with it because I created it, if I were to read it as an outsider, if I was to read it as a director or a producer, how would I feel about this? Is it moving? Is that in keeping with what you're?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we write a thing, and it takes months of our lives, or if you're Alexie, it takes a weekend. By the way, just incredible work ethic. Alexie can write a thing and rewrite like nobody's business. But anyway, and Max, you can write something. You can write something, and it could take like 3 months, and it feels like a 3-month thing to you. And then somebody can read it in a weekend. They can read it in an hour, and it can be hard to get out of your own head and think, how does this translate to somebody who is just looking at it without having put in the effort to create it? And what feels like a long scene to you because it took you forever to write it could be a blip for the reader, and they might say, I think this moved too fast.
So here's Paul asks, would using fast intercuts and rapid scenes do this? I think that honestly changing every single time you have to add a scene heading, it's going to take up a little bit more time on the page, like a little bit more time on this for a reader. It's going to interrupt the flow a little bit more. I think as best you can, it's less about the individual scenes and how fast they're coming at you, and more about how long you take to describe what's happening. And then Avi, was it you or was Adam? Someone saying that you should be able to read it as fast as it would happen on the screen. So
Yes.
Don't describe a punch in like 3 sentences that's going to take 1 second on the screen.
That's right. Yeah. And
Similarly, you can like imply slow-mo by doing the opposite, I guess. Like if you do describe a punch, or you can imply that there's like a special focus on it. Like if I describe this piece of action in a ton of sentences, then the reader kind of assumes that exactly what's happening there matters a lot. Can
I just add though that there is going too far in this, like where they can become directing on the page. Like there's a fine line between, did I clearly show what is happening in the best way possible that shows the emotion that I want in the scene, and then like I'm imagining a camera effect, so I'm going to slow everything down.
Yeah.
Like these decisions have to come from a place of, is this the way it needs to feel to communicate the story? That's my opinion.
I think that's right. I think when you know what has to happen in this scene, when you know what has to happen in your scripted passage, you say it and you get out. If you don't really know, that's when you get into 40 lines. because you haven't figured out. So you're trying to say a whole ton of stuff, hoping maybe the reader will figure it out because you haven't figured it out yet. So that's one of the true disciplines of screenwriting is you figure it out. You know what you have to say, and then you say it, and then you're done. And that it's one of the very demanding disciplines of screenwriting.
Yeah. It's all about communicating to the reader what you want them to get. And if it's a slog, then you're getting in your own way. And if it's too fast, you're getting in your own way. And it's a delicate balance.
When we're also, we should be careful here because we're also kind of focused and we're talking about action adventure and with a drama, with a I'll go Alexie, I'll go to Winter's Bone. I mean, there are scenes which I really, really appreciate when what's the character's name, Alexie? I don't know. Oh, sorry. God.
She can do that.
But
that film. Just play it silent with
so
her.
Alexie, that's what we'll do. But there are scenes where Ree, as Alexie would say, Ree is walking to another location, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so brave because she doesn't have a car. So when she's going to somebody's house to ask, "Have you seen my father?" Whose name I don't remember.
What is his name?
Oh, good. I stumped her. Anyway, but my point is, I don't mean to.
Oh, Jessup, right?
Jessup. I think so. Anyway, but the point
Something
is
like
that film, because of the genre and the difference, is that film will allow you to take more time. So keep in mind what we're talking about today is a super action adventure, and the rules of speed don't necessarily apply to a different genre. They certainly don't apply to a reality-based drama where you will take more time with the scene.
Although, to be fair, like sometimes I'll read a drama script where like every slight movement of a character's head or shoulders is included. And I know that they're trying to go for a slow pace because that's how drama might feel to them. And it's just like, you don't need it.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, these, the cutting and yeah.
Right. I think that kind of ties back to what Adam was saying, which is like, do it when it feels natural, but don't sit there and try to artificially dictate a pace that doesn't read right on the page. Where as best you can, you want to kind of just, in most writing, you don't want people to think about you as the writer at all.
No, they shouldn't know you're there.
No,
I mean, a really good script, they don't know the writer was there.
No,
it's just it happened to appear on the page. By the way, one of the things that I hope we're doing, and I hope this is working for all of you. We're going classics, we're going indie films, we're going blockbusters. We're trying to show a lot of genres. As as you start to become more and more familiar with your voice as a writer, I think it's important to know The Bicycle Thief. I think it's important to know Mad Max Fury Road. It's important to know all these films. But as you get closer, and I'm not suggesting you should limit yourself, but as you get closer to your own voice and understanding what genre you work in, spend time looking at that genre, understanding the particulars of that genre and how they play, because they all have slightly different rules. And as a cinephile, I mean, I love them all, maybe with the exception of romantic comedies, but they all have.
We'll convert you, John. We'll convert you. You haven't seen the right ones. That's
maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. But
he doesn't believe in love.
That's my flaw. Don't tell my wife. But God, I just gotta get in a shitload of trouble. Anyway, I made my point. But I think that's what's a lot of fun about this class for me is hopefully introducing you to some films that you haven't seen before, and that you're saying, oh, that really speaks to me. Or you'll see a film and you go, I don't get it. But it's again, it's part of the process, and the more literate you become with different genres and different pieces of films, different kinds of films, I think it really can help you as a writer and a storyteller.
That ties into a conversation we were having, Adam and I were having on the Discord yesterday, which was looking at a bunch of like coming of age films and animated movies and thinking about what works there that might not necessarily be standard in other genres, like the fact that a lot of coming of age films and animated films have a long first act.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of to build on that.
Yeah, and also, I in keeping with that, I mean, I would sometimes look at filmmakers and what they do. I mean, we talked about Billy Wilder, who's a great filmmaker, and Mike Nichols, who had a similar sensibility and tone. And if you go through the library or the canon of films that Wilder made, or that John Ford made, or that John Huston made, or Spielberg, or you start to pick up on Spielberg's. Spielberg. If you look at his film, he really long first acts. He just has really long first acts. He's Spielberg. You can get away with it. So watching, yes, different genres. Also watching different filmmakers and learning from them and what they do.
Sort of on this note, do we want to announce next week's film?
Yeah.
Okay. So
what is it?
It is our first. Yeah, John. Actually, I don't think that we cleared the film with you, but we didn't say when. So really, shouldn't be that big of a curveball. But
Alexie starts to slow down. Notice her dialogue started to slow down a little bit. Yeah, but tell me. Just tell me. Tell me what I'm doing. What?
Yeah, Winter's Bone again. Just.
Actually, we're starting our romantic comedy month.
Oh my God! I just remembered. I'm going to be out of town. Oh my God.
Okay, so we're doing our first animated feature. I realized we have not. No, you'll remember. I realized that we hadn't done it yet. We hadn't done an animated family film yet, and so we are doing Spirited Away.
Oh shit!
A Miyazaki film.
Okay.
And
what happened to Ratatouille?
Oh, we got
to never. I never want to watch that movie again.
Oh my God! It's a great film.
That sounds like a film. It sounds like a discussion for another time.
Look at Avishai. Look at Avishai.
Better than Spirited Away.
Okay, it was Spirited Away. Okay, Spirited Away.
All right.
Well, also, it's Spirited Away is anime, right? Isn't it considered that?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and then we can still do a Pixar one, John. Don't worry.
No.
We'll get to
Spirited Away. So that's our. Wait, what is that? Our block. What is this? Was our blockbuster? What is that?
This is our, I guess,
our indie. No.
It's not really an indie. I don't know what it's non-US. It was our non-US film, is what it is.
Wait, we have a non-US genre.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great.
So
we should.
This is like the biggest grossing Japanese film ever.
Great. Okay.
So
great film.
Fun fact about it is that there is Miyazaki doesn't do scripts. He does really, really elaborate storyboards.
Actually, no, he doesn't start with storyboards though. Those storyboards are after the fact, right?
But he doesn't have a script, right?
He doesn't have a script, and he has a vague outline, sometimes a paragraph, and he animates as he goes. Like they start animating.
Oh. Well, anyway, so there's no. Adam just had to tell the truth. So.
What are you going to hold up there, Alexie?
I'm. It's a reveal, but anyway. So we did. So in the script or in the email that I'm going to send out, there's actually a fan-made script where somebody went through the whole movie and typed up a script based on it. And so we're going to send that out because it's interesting. But just remember that it's not the actual script because there is none. Just look like when you read it, you're reading it for story. But I have this book, which is all the storyboards. And when I got it, I was like, maybe I could scan it. But then this thing is like freaking 1,500,000 pages. So that's not going to happen. But it's really cool. So I could show
Where did you find that? Is that like an Amazon thing?
Yeah.
Oh, how cool. I want to see that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh my God, I got to see that.
Wow.
I'm going to order it. Okay.
I'll send you a link, John. Yeah.
Send me the link.
You can order it.
I gotta have that.
It's very cool, and there's some for most of the Miyazaki films.
And I actually, John, you should know, I am a super Miyazaki Studio Ghibli fan. Like, I think he's probably he's a top 10 greatest director of all time.
Okay.
For my opinion.
I'm all in. Spirited Away.
Great film. It terrified me as a child. But
Because it's scary, and great
Are you
children's
scarred?
films, great children's
Are
fantasy
scary,
films
are
should scare children. Children
Yeah.
should be scared. I
Do
really
they
believe
kill the
that.
mom? Do they kill the mom?
I don't
No,
think
they turn the mom and dad into pigs, and she has to save them.
we're back to
I
Babe.
can't wait. I
And
can't
the,
wait.
and the stakes of the
Yeah.
story are so good. I won't spoil them.
Don't spoil. I mean, now I'm in. Hey, let me ask you. Speaking of films that we might see, and classics. I know that everybody cringes when it's my turn to suggest a film, right? Is everybody there? You go, oh shit, what do we got? It's not even black and white film.
I think
A
mostly
lot of
me.
our students like them, so that's just Alexie.
Yeah, it's really just me.
God. Well, that's nice to hear. Mutiny. How
Oh.
about? Okay, I need a. Can we do a show of hands?
And just to
Possible.
qualify into the chat, I did not
Yeah.
give away any substantial spoilers because that happens within the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, it's like inciting
That's like the
incident.
inciting incident.
You're allowed legally to give out inciting incidences
Yes.
without it being a spoiler. So
Yes.
Yeah,
Legally?
Adam only gets 10
Legally?
lashes.
What do you mean
legally,
You
I
mean
mean legally. I mean,
legally.
if we were to take
so
Adam
Adam
to court,
cannot be sued.
no,
I cannot
Adam
be,
can
yelled
only
at.
Can we see a show of
Adam can
hands?
only be flogged for that. He can't be executed.
no.
Can we see a show of hands? Who has seen The Bicycle Thief? What about? Yeah, look at Alexie.
I
Look
can't
at
remember.
If you can't remember, that's a no. By the way, that's a
No,
no.
I have a
I
vague
could
memory.
have predicted that.
And by the way, is it a great film or not?
It's pretty great.
It's great. We should
It's
make that
great.
our next classic.
That was we had
Do
to watch
people
it
in
at
the
NYU.
chat
That was
room,
that
do
was a
people-
language film.
Then that's what
required
I
film.
did. I remember I was eating a muffin and there was a thing about a bicycle and
Oh my god!
and I just
You're
was like,
killing me. You ate
The
a
memorable
while
muffin.
you're watching this film.
yeah, I
can't
remember
do
the
that.
muffin and I
That's
think
just wrong. What was it? A blueberry or what was it? Cranberry? What kind of?
it was like a cranberry
Okay,
orange.
that's good. That might be too much.
From Pete's.
Okay. Yeah, from
From
Pete's.
Pete's,
Pete's
yeah.
Coffee. Okay.
Mhm.
Jeez. Okay, and so you kind of missed the film because the muffin, I guess, was working.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
When the
Mhm.
Bicycle Thief conversation's done, I have a question about Fury Road, but we'll get back to that.
Oh my god! How many of our
I-
students? How many of our group? I don't know. Their students. What are they? Our comrades.
Our
have seen
writers.
our writers have seen Bicycle
Our
Thief.
cultists.
Can we just get some comments? Does anybody?
Let's see.
Do people love it?
Some people
Tell me you love
have
it.
seen it.
Yes.
Bicycle
Thank
Thief
you.
is
Isn't it
great.
great? By the way, that's a
Bicycle
nice picture.
Thief is beautiful.
Paul there. Paul. Yes. And
Is
Paul's
that
good.
is this
Paul.
what people are
Paul
saying
knows his
yes
shit.
to?
What?
Yes. Is that
Yes.
is that relevant?
There. I was wondering. I hadn't seen you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Carrie, you haven't seen it, or you don't like it? Carrie, come back.
Yes,
Proudly.
Aaron.
Proudly, nope. Proudly, nope. I don't understand that, Aaron. What do you mean, proudly, nope?
Because now
You
he
got
gets
to
to
watch
enjoy
it,
it with us.
huh?
Now he gets to enjoy it with us.
Oh man.
What? Oh, love it.
I'm just
Color Lab.
zeroing in on
It seems so-
Desiree's comment there.
What does Ray say?
Can we do a vampire film?
You would zoom in on that one, Avi.
We got to do a vampire film.
So-
Which
so
way?
Avi-
Desiree, which
Avi.
film?
What we do in the shadows.
Oh, What We Do in the Shadows is so good.
By the way, this thing, there's so many great films. We go on for years. That's frightening, isn't it?
So, Avishai, what would you, if you had to do one vampire film? I'm curious, what would your vampire film be?
Off the top of my head, I have a number of them, but I think the first one I'd be really interested in, it could be done as the foreign film of the month. I would go with Let the Right One In.
I don't know that film.
What is it?
Let the Right One In.
Wow.
It's a Swedish film. It takes place in the
Twilight.
80s, and it's about a small
Great.
child who befriends another small child who happens to be a vampire.
Oh,
and-
98% on Rotten Tomato.
Oh, yes, Sandra, absolutely. Yeah. Interview with a Vampire. That's a good. I wonder if that holds up.
This is the correct answer. It's What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows is pretty great.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down.
I have a question about Fury Road before we run out of time.
Oh yeah. Wait, please.
I feel like there's a topic that we can discuss, that this would be the perfect time to discuss, which is writing action scenes. Because we talked about, writing on the page, like how quickly to pace it, but I want to talk about actually constructing action scenes, because these are some beautifully constructed scenes. And my favorite action scene in the entire film is when Max first meets Furiosa and they get into that scuffle next to the truck, and it's not just a slugfest like you might see in a number of other action movies. They're using what's around them, and those things are also the obstacles to them. And I was wondering if, John, if you had any thoughts on constructing action scenes, because there are so many things you can pull out of these sequences.
Wow, it's a good question. I don't know if I've got a good answer. I mean, I know that I'm sorry to keep saying this, but that saying what you have to say. I mean, a lot of times if you see, and Avishai, you read so many scripts, Adam, you do too. You all do, but if you, a lot of times you'll see an action piece on a film and you go, wow, that must be a long scene written, on the page, and then you go to the script and it's not. Always err on the side of brevity. Say what how many times can you say he threw a punch,
right?
So you do what
In Inception, wasn't like that fight scene in the corridor with the tilting corridor. It basically just says Arthur fights the guy. And
but what I found interesting in this film is I don't think you could write a lot of these scenes as just they fight, because there's so much but and therefore happening within the scene. And instead of just having obstacles to overcome, the obstacles have consequences, and the obstacles turn into opportunities half the time. Yeah. Like it's like when Max wants to get inside the truck, and then a polecat, one of the people on the poles, comes and grabs him, pulls him onto a different truck. Well, now he has a different enemy to fight, and while he's doing that, somebody's going after Furiosa with a knife. And it always has a consequence. It's not just treadmilling for half an hour. It's not just characters going through choreography until eventually the script says, okay, and now there's a plot point and something actually changes. No, things are changing consistently from beat to beat.
And George, as I said, I think earlier, he's so great at creating. All of you are running into this now. Second act, obstacles. How do I find enough obstacles? This is a masterclass. The film is a masterclass in creating obstacles and making them happen. And they're all big and they're vibrant and they're wonderful.
And they all result in a change.
Yes. It's a film that, as Ami will prove, you can see 20 or 30 times.
It is the most rewatchable film on the planet.
So something that's
a quote. That's got to go on a pillow somewhere.
I have to plug that Adam, John, and Adam and I right now, and soon John, we're all working on writing the scene right now, where we're going to talk about this kind of stuff, and just like the technical side of how do you write a solid scene, and that's going to be for free, and we'll let you all know when it's out. But
and I love writing the scene. I just real quick. Writing a scene, a lot of times you approach a scene as if it's a mini movie. So you're saying, okay, I know what the scene is I have to write this morning, before you get to wherever you write, let's say the office. And I know what the scene is. And what is the conflict? What is the inherent conflict? What happens in the scene? Who is the protagonist? And then you build it. You start to think of it. I'm going into lecture mode here. I'll shut up. But you build it as a mini movie, and even if it's only 2 pages, there's a movie within that. It goes back to what Avishai was just saying about the action beats in Fury Road. There's a and for George Miller, sometimes in 15 to 30 seconds, it looks like because there's a protagonist with an objective. There's the guy who wants to stop the truck, and the truck that doesn't want to be stopped. I don't know if that's making sense, but writing the scene is a lot of fun. I'm eager to get into that. It's cool. And by the way, it's highly necessary.
And then here's a question from Carrie. She says, "So is but therefore also the director's job?" So I
No.
think well, that's kind of about the choreographed, like the fights. What Avi was saying about what's so good about the fights.
It's the
And
director's job if the writer didn't do it.
But here's the thing:
The writer should be doing. Carrie, the writer should do the butt therefore.
I didn't mean
But
to
also
cut that off.
choreographers can do, like, in a fight that's good, it's not just like random punches. It's like a good fight choreography does
What
that, but not necessarily on like a story level. The but therefore on a story level is always the writer's job.
Yeah, I think that's what Carrie. Maybe I don't know.
But I agree with Avi in the sense that the director their job is to make whatever isn't happening that's supposed to be happening. Like whatever that means. Because at the end of the day, a screenplay is just a blueprint for a movie. Like if you have a bad script and you're directing, you want to at least do what you can. I mean, it's a director's medium. It's their name on the thing. Like they should be able to. What's the some people do improvisations to fix bad dialogue.
True.
I Curb Your Enthusiasm is all improvised, and
Yeah.
it's great.
And
The story works. He has all those things layered in. So the but therefore is there, but
yeah, the but therefore, even in Curb Your Enthusiasm, is still there. The story's still there, and then the people he's working with are so brilliant that they can riff or improvise on the design of what he set up, right?
right.
Yeah, I mean, they say that
Kira, I hope we haven't muddled up the question.
You write the film 3 times, right? You write it while you're writing it, you write it while you're shooting it, and then you write it while you're editing it. So,
That's
you
right.
write it for the but therefore. When you're filming, you want to make sure that the pieces work in conjunction with each other, where it feels like things are leading to other things and not happening in isolation. And when you're editing it, you want to make sure that it reads, that it flows a certain way, and that you're not just jamming moments together that were originally intended to be but therefore, but aren't working as such.
All right.
Spirited Away.
Next week.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about this. When I watched it for the first time, I walked out feeling very similar to how I did when I watched Parasite. Because I actually saw it in theaters because they do a Studio Ghibli Fest in New York, where every month they play it in I think IFC or something. Anyway, I saw it in theaters again, and I was like, oh my god, Americans don't know how to direct movies.
I thought you were saying this when you were 9 years old and the movie
No,
came out.
not 9 years old. This was like
Little Adam.
3 years ago. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. I watched it and it blew my socks off. Princess Mononoke too. Probably is a better story. I don't know.
Right,
have you seen
Spirited Away is kind of like structurally funny, right?
But the core works.
Yeah.
Like,
Wait,
it's
are we
Wizard of
gonna-
Oz. It's Wizard of Oz.
We'll break it down.
Aren't we
We'll
going to
break
talk
it
about
down.
it next week?
Yes, we are. I'm sorry. I'm just rambling because I
Adam's
do that.
excited.
I've been spending too much time with John.
Yeah, and by the way, and you don't want to do that because you will ramble and ramble and ramble.
I just hope my hair doesn't fall out.
On one moment of concern here, where's your dog?
She was on my bed a second ago, and she got up and she walked out.
Whose fault was it?
Was it Adam's rambling, or I don't know?
I think somebody probably in the next room set up her dinner, and she heard it.
Oh, that's it. Okay,
Oh.
all right.
Those small dogs do not like my voice for some reason.
Is that true? I don't
Yeah.
think.
That's why I'm wearing, Adam. That's why I'm wearing headphones. It's for her protection.
It's for protection.
That's good for protection.
This was
All
great.
right.
Thank you guys. It was
All right.
really
Yeah.
fun.
See you next
Have
time
a great
for
weekend,
See you next
everybody.
Copy
Alexie,
class number 20.
I want to hear what you think when you go through the storyboards that you bought.
Yeah. I'm going to try to find a way to share some of them or something. But
All right.
we'll figure it out.
Take
All right.
care, everybody.
Bye.